It's good to see you this afternoon. My Bible's rather propped up above the video camera, so if I'm looking upwards quite a bit, that's where I'm looking to. We're going to go with the parable of the lost son this afternoon. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there wasted his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the country. He had to go and hire himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him and ran to his son, threw his arms round him and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Bring a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing, so he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother's come, he replied, and your father's killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so that I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered all your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and he is alive again. He was lost and is found. If you know this reading well, you'll know that there's a huge amount that can be taken from it, and people read it and reflect on it in very different ways. I want to just think about it in terms of the Father, in terms of what he was thinking. I wonder, if the Father is a picture of Jesus, I wonder what Jesus feels when real people like us choose to take everything God has given us and walk away from him and live as if he didn't exist. We're choosing to live in God's world as if it's not God's at all. I wonder how that makes God feel. Because that's how the father must have felt in this story when his son took everything he had to offer him, but then walked away, pretended he didn't exist. It's a very, very interesting point to think about, isn't it? And at times like these, maybe we start to realise those things that are really, really important. Think about all those things that God has given us, and think about acknowledging Him for all those things. The other part of the story that I always stop at is when the father ran. And you see, so I'm just balancing my Bible again. And you see, in those days, old men in particular, didn't run. It wasn't respectable. But you see, the father could see his son coming from a distance. And all the villagers knew exactly what the son had done. And they knew, or the father knew, that if the son started walking into the village, that he might well get lynched by all the villagers who thought he had done such a terribly awful thing. So what does the father do? He hitches up his garments and runs down the street. You can imagine it, can't you? People who never ever run because it's not dignified. Dogs barking, kids laughing and pointing, other villagers being absolutely horrified. It would have been humiliating and so shameful. But the father put himself in the place where the son should have been. He took the abuse and he took the shame, even though his son was the one who deserved it. He humbled himself to spare his son humiliation. And that's exactly what Jesus does for us. He puts himself in the place where we should be. He takes the abuse and the shame, and he humbles himself to spare our humiliation. And he did that by dying on the cross for you and for me. If you're looking for this story in the Bible, you'll find it in Luke's Gospel, which is the third Gospel in the New Testament, and it's chapter 15, and I'm just looking for verses. It's verses 11 to 32. Do have a look